This is Your Anxiety Toolkit, episode number 113. Welcome to Your Anxiety Toolkit. I'm your host, Kimberly Quinlan. This podcast is fueled by three main goals. The first goal is to provide you with some extra tools to help you manage your anxiety. Second goal, to inspire you. Anxiety doesn't get to decide how you live your life. And number three, and I leave the best for last, is to provide you with one big, fat virtual hug. Because experiencing anxiety ain't easy. If that sounds good to you, let's go. Well, welcome back. I am so thrilled to have you here with me on this incredibly hot summer day here in Los Angeles. Holy smokes, you guys. It's like crazy hot here, but I can't complain because we've had a pretty mild summer here so far. Interesting, though, I think, how the weather is, meaning how it comes and goes, how it does its thing. We don't really have control over it. It kind of rules the way we exist. When the sun comes up, we go outside. When the sun goes down, we often go inside. A lot of our internal rhythms are related to nature and the seasons and how we live our lives. And that is so parallel to the process and the conversation we're having today, which is about thoughts. Just plain old simple thoughts, those things that whirl around in your head. Sometimes they whirl around a lot. Sometimes they whirl around not a lot. Sometimes they're scary. Sometimes they're strange. Sometimes they're happy. They just come and go like the seasons. But I digress. What I wanted to talk with you today is based on a question that I get asked all the time. I get asked this question on Instagram. I get this asked a lot on Magic Monday. I know a lot of people often will email me even and ask these similar questions when I'm at conferences, ask these similar questions, and my clients ask these similar questions. So today I wanted to talk to you about thoughts and what we can do about these things that fly through the sky, in through our ears and around, and sometimes make a lot of ruckus and a lot of noise. So first of all, what is a thought? Well, that's an interesting question because there are multiple different ways that we understand it. But for today, for the purpose of today, I want you to consider your thoughts as a moving, changing process that is the result of your working brain. And that's a wonderful thing, right? We all want to have a working brain, and you will have a working brain. Even if you're having difficulties with your thoughts, it still means your brain is working just fine. But the metaphor I often use is imagine your brain is the sky, your mind is the sky, and thoughts are simply just the clouds that move along through the sky and over the sky and around the sky. Again, sometimes they're dark and sometimes they're light and fluffy. Sometimes they're thin and sometimes they're thick, and sometimes they're, moving around and sometimes they're not, right? Sometimes there's wind. So I want you to think of thoughts, like I said, as nothing more than clouds in the sky. Now, that's not a scientific explanation in any case, but I don't want us to be too much about science. I want it to be about you conceptualizing your thoughts. Now, here's the thing. If there are clouds in the sky, it doesn't make the sky automatically bad, right? Dark clouds in the sky doesn't mean the sky is bad. It means that we're going through a season or a moment or a period of dark skies or dark gray clouds, and they will come and go in their own time. We can have some assurance that that won't be there for the rest of our lives. And it's ever changing, right? It's never, ever the same. Okay? So I want you to think of thoughts as that. The thing to remember here is your value, your worth, your moral code has nothing to do with the thoughts that come in and out of your mind. Often a friend might text me and say, oh my gosh, I just judged this girl or this friend so hard, or I'm just so angry at that one person. Does that make me bad? And I'll go, no, that means you had a thought about that girl or that friend or that colleague. That's just the clouds that are passing through your sky right now, right? It's not something that reflects our worth and our value and who we are at all. Okay, so big important point to get started with. Now, a common question I get asked, and this is the main thing I want to talk about today, is the concept around thought suppression. I just did a quick Google, right, before I came on here on racing thoughts, like how to manage racing thoughts. And the majority of the Google results, the content of those articles are going to tell you to stop thinking, think about happy thoughts, think about things, a stop sign, whatnot, that, what you call that thought stopping. They're going to give you all of these tools to tell you that those thoughts are terrible or might make bad things happen or whatever they're going to tell you, and that you should stop them. But the thing to know here is, and if you take away one thing from today's episode, it is this. That is all thought suppression, and thought suppression does not work. We have tons of evidence, tons of science to prove that the more you try not to think about something, the more you're going to think about it. And the more you try not to think about it, the more you're labeling that thought, that cloud, as bad. And when we label things as bad, just by that action, in the future, when you have that thought again, your brain is going to retrieve it as a bad thought, which is a judgment, and then it's probably going to send out some anxiety along with it, because your poor brain is just going, well, you told me last time it was bad, so if it's bad, it must need some anxiety, because with anxiety, we need to get rid of it. That's our normal fight, flight, and freeze reaction, right? So thought suppression simply does not work. But here is the question. Someone wrote this question and I thought it was really important. I wanted to bring it in because I wanted to answer it. I figured if this person has the question, I know a ton of you do. This is the question I got. I have heard you talk about distraction and thought suppression. Does that mean I need to just focus on my thoughts and stay in my own head? Okay, so what they've continued to write is, while keeping myself busy with my job and activities keeps me engaged and it gets me out of my head, does this count as distraction? Okay, so let me back up here. This is a brilliant question. What do we know about thoughts so far? Thoughts are just thoughts. They're neither good nor bad. They don't declare you as a good or bad human, right? The seasons change and you're going to have some crazy thoughts sometimes and some non-crazy thoughts and good thoughts and, happy thoughts and thoughts that you don't like and so forth. We also know that trying to push those thoughts away never works. But we also know that distraction is another version of thought suppression, right? Distraction, if you're having a thought that scares you and you try and distract yourself from it, you're still inadvertently training your brain to think that that thought isn't good, that's quote unquote bad. You're judging it. You're placing it in a category where your brain is later going to retrieve it and think, shouldn't have that thought, going to shoot out a bunch of anxiety hormones through the body, right? So no, distraction is not a great way to manage thoughts either. But here is the thing. Distraction is a tool that is effective when we're talking about emotional regulation. Now, just to be clear, I want to make sure I clear all these definitions up. When we are talking about thoughts, distraction is not advised, as we've talked about. But when we're talking about very strong emotions, very, very strong emotions that cause you to engage in behaviors that are really harmful for yourselves. There is types of therapy called dialectical behavioral therapy, which is a fantastic modality if you find you are engaging in dangerous or very problematic behaviors, or you're really struggling to regulate your emotions. DBT talks about distraction as an appropriate tool. So I don't want anyone to feel like distraction is all bad, because nothing is all bad. And I never will buy into this idea, because everyone needs different tools. So what we're talking about here, to clarify, is when we're dealing with thoughts in and of themselves, distraction is not highly effective. However, if you're getting to the point where these thoughts are so problematic, well, then yes. Then if you're engaging in behaviors that are, really harmful to you or others, then yes, we will engage in distraction. But if that is not you, and you're just having thoughts and anxiety associated, maybe panic associated with that, what I want to do here is introduce to you another option, another piece of terminology that may help you to decide how you want to react. Because I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to give you as much resources as I can so you can make your best decision for your life. So going back to the question, he or she said, well, keeping myself busy with my job and other activities does keep me more engaged and keeps me out of my head. Does that count as distraction? Well, the answer is no. What this person is doing is engaging in what we call occupation. So it is not thought suppression. It is not distraction. It's called occupation. And occupation is the ultimate goal here. And the definition of occupation, or the example of occupation, is to engage in the behaviors in which you value or that you need to get done while you have the thought, right? You're not focusing on the thought, because that definitely won't work, right? If you start focusing on your thought, you're going to do what we call fuse with your thoughts. And once you fuse with your thoughts, often you're in trouble, right? So we don't want to fuse with thoughts. We don't want to lock in and pay all this attention, because a lot of the time our thoughts don't mean anything, or most of the time they don't mean anything. And thoughts are thoughts. They come and they go. They don't define us, as we've already clarified. And so here we have is occupation. It's simply allowing your thoughts while you do life, right? And so that's what this person is doing. And I'm really glad, because they wanted clarifying and clarification on what is what. So simply put, thought suppression is you trying not to have a thought. Distraction is a behavior you do in effort to not have a thought. So it ends up being a form of thought suppression. Occupation is what you do while you have a thought. And to be honest, this is hard, right? This is not easy. And the thing that often my clients report to me, the struggles they have, is they say, Kimberly, I was doing great. I walked into my class and I was having the thought, I was practicing occupation, but their thoughts just kept coming and coming. And so then I just kept allowing them, but then they just kept coming. So I gave up and I did, A, B, and C compulsion, or I tried to make the thoughts go away, or I tried to distract. And then we look at, this is what I call cognitive endurance, right? Which is thought endurance. It's your endurance to allow those thoughts to be with you as you live your life, right? That engagement is really throwing yourself into it. Let me give you an example. I'll give you a recent personal example of mine. So just on the weekend, I took a mother-daughter trip with my daughter we usually every year, we do this annually, we go and stay in a hotel and we get room service and we have such a great time. And then we usually go to some type of theme park. So this time we went to a water theme park because it's been so hot. And for the first 40 minutes, I couldn't focus on the water park. My mind was racing. I had a few things I couldn't get out of my mind. Not that I was trying to, but they just were repeating themselves, I couldn't stay engaged in, well, that's what I believed anyway, which absolutely is not true. But I was getting triggered by them, and I was trying to push them away, and I was trying to distract, and I was, we all do this. Sometimes we engage in problematic behaviors here. Once I caught this, I just had this feeling of dread of like, come on, I'm at the park with my daughter. I just want to have fun. Why are these thoughts here today? This is such a bummer. I'm angry about it. I'm completely just rejecting this whole idea. And, the truth is, I'm always going to tell you guys the truth. This happens to me too, right? And then I thought to myself, okay, I'm just going to focus on my daughter. And I tried that for like a 30 seconds, and then I caught myself and I'm like, wait a second. Just trying to focus on my daughter is me doing a version of distraction, right? What I need to do is I need to practice occupation, which is I'm going to let the thoughts be there. I'm going to let that one thing that's stressing me out be there. And I'm going to go into the water park and into the water with that thought. I'm not going to try and push the feeling and the thought away, because thought suppression doesn't work. Right? We know this. I know this, but still we are human. I'm going to always admit to being a human, which I am, right? So thought suppression doesn't work. So we practice occupation. What does the water feel like against my skin? And there's that thought. What does the water smell like? Oh, I smell some chlorine. And there's that thought. What is the sound of my daughter's laugh and squeal? She's so excited. What does that sound like? And there's that thought. And then I just kept going through it. What does it feel like to have water dripping all over my head from every direction? There's water being sprayed everywhere. And I'm going to let the anxiety and the stress come with, right? That's occupation. So here is what we're talking about. This isn't just for anxiety disorders. This is for every day. Even as I record this podcast, I'm waiting for my husband who's picking up the kids and he's going to beep when he gets out the front and we're all going to take off and go to the pool. I'm listening for that beep while I speak with you guys. I'm engaging with you guys, and both you can do, right? Here's the thing. And I know I keep saying here's the thing, but this is an important piece to remember. You're not supposed to be perfect at this. So if you're trying to find this perfect balance where you are the perfect kind of doing occupation, you're not going to get there because there's too many spinning plates, right? You're not supposed to be perfect at this, like I say to my clients. This is kind of like a pendulum swing where you swing in and out and you do the best you can and you focus on the moment. And then it might be that, your thoughts take you away for a second and then you just come on back. And then you get taken away and then you come on back and you just keep returning to what it is that you want and what you value. That's the piece of the work here. So in all, that's thoughts. They come and they go. Our job isn't to get rid of them. Our thought isn't to make them pretty. Our thought isn't to wrap them up in a bow and package them in a way that satisfies the people around you. No, that's never going to be a successful and effective tool. What is a successful tool is this tool called occupation. It's neither fusing with thoughts, nor is it distracting or suppressing thoughts. It's allowing it while engaging in the things that you value, right? What do you value? Make choices based on things you value, not on what you're afraid of or what your fears are telling you may not happen, right? So that's thoughts. At the end of the day, they're going to come and go. I sort of like to practice my beginner's mind here too, which if you haven't heard that episode, it's way early in the podcast, but it's a really great way at practicing curiosity about thoughts. That's the trick, right? Okay, I'm going to love you and leave you. I am sending you the biggest virtual hug I can. I adore you guys. Keep doing this brave work. Keep asking the good questions. These are good questions. And if you're stuck on this stuff, hey, you're not alone. I'm always going to tell you, I fall into this trap too, right? We're human. All we can do is do the best we can. Okay? All my love to you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I will talk to you soon. It is a beautiful day to do this hard thing. Have a good one. Please note that this podcast or any other resources from cbtschool.com should not replace professional mental health care. If you feel you would benefit, please reach out to a provider in your area. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for supporting cbtschool.com.